This is the Thought Leaders Podcast.
Today, I got to hang out with the Goal Guys, two brothers doing amazing lifestyle and fitness challenges. They've had some videos that gone super viral with 5 million plus views. It was really interesting learning about everything that goes into the video and just some quick highlights for you. At about the 5 minute mark, they really explained to me what it was like to quit their full-time jobs and go straight full-time into YouTube. Around the 21 minute mark, they explained to me everything that goes into filming and planning out a challenge. And then towards the end, at about the 30 minute mark, we really get into the nitty gritty about how they choose each challenge and what it's like to actually do them. Okay, guys, enjoy.
Want to say thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast. It's brand new. We're super happy to have you guys. On a personal note, I'm a big fan. That's why actually we had initially reached out to Derek. I guess I found you guys way back with the Wolverine video, which we'll get to. Obviously, I'm sure you guys get that a lot. But so really, I just wanted to just get right into it and see how'd you guys get your start? And kind of take me along that journey.
Well, Cam, you were making YouTube videos long before I was. So why don't you start us?
Yeah. Well, I started making videos back in 2015. I just graduated university with an acting degree, and so I graduated university, was working in a city where I didn't know very many people. So I had always been a big fan of YouTube, watched a ton of it, and I had always had this idea that I would start a channel one day. And so having no friends in the new city that I lived in, I was like, oh, I guess I got time to do this, so I might as well do it. So I started learning how to use my camera, learning how to edit, started making some videos that were just kind of like funny little videos that I would send to my buddies. And then I think I was doing that for probably a year and a half, just casually. And then that was when you hopped in and we made like the Wolverine video and really turned it into actual Goal Guys. So that was kind of how we got started.
Really cool. So that first video, the Wolverine video, that was the one that kind of got you guys viral, right?
That one was the first one that I think like cleared like 100,000 views for us, and now it's up to like it's in the millions. But
yeah, I just checked before. It's at 5.3 million, which is insane.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering if you guys can kind of walk me through what you guys were doing before, and then had that transition into you guys being, the Goal Guys, essentially.
So I was in the time we started this, I was a permittee in the film union in IATSE for Toronto, which basically every night I was calling in to the hotline and making myself available for work. And if they had spots open on TV shows to do camera, to do painting, to do whatever kind of odd jobs, I would get the call, and the next morning I would be on set. And so any days when I wasn't on set, if I didn't get the call, I had time. So that was usually when I started trying to work on challenges. The problem was when we do challenge videos, you want to be doing stuff daily, and set calls can be anywhere from 10 hours to 16. So for the longest time, it was just trying to say like, oh, I got this call today, great, I'm going to make like some good cash. I also got to get up and do this other thing really, really early now to make sure I get my hours in, and then you do set calls for however many days that week, and then you get some actual time to rest and then really invest in filming and editing and stuff like that. That was where I was when I was starting. Cam, you had something a little more consistent.
Yeah. I was working acting contracts and working at a coffee shop, and then filming YouTubes in my spare time. And I think at the time I was really into reading a lot of self-help books, a lot of like Tim Ferriss books, things like that that I was finding really inspiring at the time. And so I think that naturally started to merge into the content that I was making. Casey Neistat was really big at the time, so I was like copying him a bunch and like really inspired in his work ethic and all those things. And so I naturally started making more videos, and they were centered around self-improvement and trying to better myself. And that was kind of what merged Goal Guys. And then you came on with like a fitness challenge and things like that. And so, yeah, that was kind of how we both segued into what we do.
And you guys are doing this full time now?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Thankfully, it's very nice not having to balance other work.
So how I would love to hear, because I've spoken to a lot of people, like what is that decision? Just like I am going to quit my conventional job and be a YouTuber, like which is a career that in 2005 didn't exist. Today it does. Like I would love to hear how that went.
Well, for me, I guess you held on to a videography job for a little longer.
Yeah.
I basically worked on, at the same time I was doing the YouTube, like kind of just on and off with Goal Guys. I had finally gotten membership with the union, and I got my first like big time show where I was on the crew for season 1 of Umbrella Academy, which was this Netflix show with a lot of money thrown into it.
I've seen it. It's good.
So I worked on that for for 10 months and change, I guess. It was supposed to be a 9-month show. It turned into like 10 months and change. And by the end, it was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Or at least I don't want this to be my full-time job, because I think at one point I had done 31 days straight on that show. And I was like, I'm done. Like, this is not sustainable anymore, just for my own mindset. So by then I had saved up a bit of money. I had just gotten married, and I was like, okay, I can, even if I'm making significantly less money, which I was like, maybe we can start growing the channel at a much faster rate, and I'll make videos faster, and hopefully that can turn into a full-time job for both of us. And that took time. It was not a good financial decision. It didn't look like for a few months, and now we're finally catching up to where we'd hoped to be probably 6 months ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was definitely a scary transition for sure. I was doing work that was very similar to making YouTube videos. I was just basically doing social media video content, but for brands. And so I was trying to balance just making videos basically 60 to 80 hours a week between my contract work and then the YouTube channel. And yeah, it's scary when it gets to the point where you want to be making YouTube videos, but giving up a very consistent, well-paying job it's a tricky balance, and definitely a leap of faith. But it's been all right. It's had its ups and downs, had some challenges, but yeah, it's been a good risk so far, at least.
Okay, that's really cool to hear. And I guess so I think you guys are super unique, right? Like with all the challenges. Where did that come? Was that something you guys were doing as kids, like always challenging each other, or like how did that idea of the format of the channel come about?
I think, well, for when Cam was doing this for a while, he was trying to do like 10 yearly goals and doing like weekly update videos on where he was with each of those challenges. And just the workload was getting a little overwhelming, I think, to try and hit those weekly targets. So I came in and was like, well, what if I just did these challenges that only lasted X amount of time, and then I'll have a video a month, basically. So I'll do a challenge on like trying to learn, see if I can become like a really good free throw shooter by doing something different and just shooting the ball underhand. And that seemed like it was going to be sustainable for me to do. And then what we realized after Wolverine and a couple of those started to do pretty well was taking on those challenges within a set window of time. People were really connecting with that, and the YouTube format lent itself to that medium, because you can kind of tell a full story in 10 minutes of like, yeah, I tried this thing, it was this, and then this is how far it got me, this is what happened. And we kind of just realized that trying to do long-term video vlogs just wasn't connecting the same way those challenges were. And I was like, well, we should just do more of those challenges.
Okay. I'm really happy that you brought up like 10 minutes. So when I watch a Goal Guys video, right? Like let's say a 30-day challenge of something, or even a 7-day challenge. So I see it in 10 minutes, but you guys are doing this for like a long time, right? So I just would love to know what goes into it. Like, does it affect, I mean, I'm assuming it affects like your everyday life. Just kind of walk me through what it is to put through a challenge, like to put together a challenge.
Yeah, it's actually a terrible way to structure a business model, because every 30 days your life is getting semi or completely interrupted depending on how involved the challenge becomes. When I was trying to like learn chess in 30 days, that was just a time commitment that was really draining. And doing that simultaneously with a fitness challenge, it was like, oh, I haven't done a good job with anything else for this business while I've been working on these two things. So they can can easily overwhelm you, and you have to make sure you're staying on top of it, because if you're not, then you don't have a video to release, and that becomes another problem.
Yeah, it's really tough, because it's also you're doing something for 30 days, but also if you want to post more than 2 videos a month for our channel, which we would love to be doing, it's like you have to be doing multiple things at a time. And so it's always juggling editing our videos together and then balancing usually 1 or 2 challenges at the same time. So it's just a lot of stuff going on at once. And then a lot of the stuff we do, like, we're both in like serious relationships, and so it's like going without a cell phone for a month. It's like, okay, now this is balancing a new element of my life, like with my partner and with my friends. And so it's just like a big time commitment and a lot of juggling that happens.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've tried to do anyway is to try and keep a routine in spite of like how disruptive the challenge feels like it is. So trying to dedicate a certain chunk of the day to say, this is, if it's an exercise video, if it's a learning video, I'm going to try and do the work that I need to do for it in this period of time of the day, and then continue with business as usual for the rest of it. It is not always easy to do, because certain challenges make you want to procrastinate. When I was doing the challenge, that was really disruptive, because I didn't like
which challenge did you say?
What's that?
Which challenge? You cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry. I did a running challenge where I tried to run a 5-minute mile in 60 days.
Okay.
And I just did not really enjoy doing circuit training for that, and saying I'm going to get to this at 10 a.m. That very quickly turned to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. And it could really throw off the rest of the day, because I was like, I don't want to do this, but this is the thing on my to-do list. I need to get it done. And then I just wind up messing with my day. But when you're doing a good job, yes, you get the stuff done, and then you designate the time for the other things that you need to be on top of.
And so I guess your channel's kind of, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are kind of split into like the fitness stuff and then the more mindfulness. Like, how do you guys come up with those, like, who does what challenge, the split between you guys?
I think a lot of it stems from general interest. Like, a lot of it is we'll sit down in a room and brainstorm ideas for an hour and that we find interesting. Because if you're going to spend 30, 60 days at something, you want to have it be something that you actually are genuinely curious about and genuinely interested in. And so a lot of it's just something we want to try, or something that's piqued our interest and we want to delve into a bit more. But yeah, I think generally it's taken us a while to figure out what our subject matter is, whether it's something more like one of the content creators we follow, Mike Boyd, who does a lot of like skill learning things, because there are a lot of things that interest us. I think there's just times where it's figuring out what we do and in what sort of lane we are on YouTube, because there's so much that we are interested in, want to take on. Yeah.
So you guys are doing more than one challenge at once, right? Like, what on average, how many? Because that already seems like crazy, doing 3 or 4 or however many you guys are doing.
Usually you're trying to do 2 things at once, and trying to split them up, so you're wrapping one challenge and starting the next one in roughly the same period of time. It doesn't always happen like that, because sometimes the end of a challenge, you're really trying to you're like, oh, I got to do a lot more filming of this and do a lot more post-production work than you anticipate, which then can push the start point on for the next one, because usually the day one is a lot of work. It's a lot of filming. It's a lot of making sure you document what it was like at the very first step, and then you pick it up piecemeal throughout the month, throughout the next 2 months. So you don't want to have to compromise on your day one ever. You don't want to have to fake that, because that becomes a problem. But ideally, you're doing 2 things at once.
Yeah, wow. It's definitely tough to be filming everything as you go. There's so many things that happen when you're not necessarily expecting them to happen, and so there is a lot of filming that does get left in the cutting room floor. But it's also stuff that you'll go through the first couple weeks and you'll be like, okay, this bit is what stands out. How do I show this in a video that I may have missed because I was on transit and I don't have my camera on me or something like that? So it's just being conscious of trying to capture as much in the moment, and then being able to truthfully tell what happened in your experience and give an honest portrayal of the experience with the challenge.
So are you guys kind of almost all day with the camera or not? Or it's just like certain segments of your day where you're filming yourselves?
It really depends. Like when I do the day one for a challenge, that you film that I try and film everything. I try and like make sure I have the all the stuff, and I usually, if I can have two cameras going. If you're working with a trainer for the first time, you're making sure you've booked a camera assistant to come and film that process. After that, it's like, okay, I probably don't need to shoot every practice session until I get to maybe day 10, and then day 10 I'm gonna see where I'm at, and then yeah, you try. And so when you're staying on top of things, you're usually shooting twice a week, I would say. And the rest of it is just you doing the practice.
Okay. And so do you guys have any challenges that really stand out for you guys? Like what was, I guess, your hardest one to do?
Running for me was probably the hardest one, just because I completely overestimated how easily it would be to build cardiovascular strength for sprinting. I figured that would be much closer to the process that would go with like building muscle. It's not. It takes a lot more work and a lot more time to really increase your speed and endurance training. The most rewarding one for me was probably spending 2 hours a day in silence. I really liked how that video turned out. It was an idea I hadn't seen anyone else do. So that one I really enjoyed and I'm proud of.
Yeah, I think the hardest one for me is actually, it's like an overlap of two. It's when I was training for my marathon, and right in the time when I had gotten injured and strained my calf and I was off running for 6 weeks was when I was doing my scheduling video and scheduling every hour of my day for 30 days, which is task in and of itself, let alone when you can go outside and run and kind of like blow off some steam through exercise. So I think the combo of those two was a lot. I think the most rewarding one that I've done, I think not necessarily most rewarding, but I think the thing I learned the most from is the cell phone video, and the fact that it was probably the biggest change that I've made that's led me to be the most productive. Cutting out that distraction was a huge benefit for me, and it's something that I have really taken some long-term effects from.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. Because I wanted to ask, like, are there challenges that you have adopted into your lifestyles because they were just so successful and you enjoyed them so much?
For me, it's probably the 2 hours of silence a day, which I'm not always doing. Like, it doesn't always wind up being 2 hours. That was kind of a stretch goal, but the idea of taking time where you're removed from the distraction, removed from as many like audio stimulus as possible, I found in the process to be really valuable. I felt like it was kind of like a mentally freeing experience, where when you just stop absorbing information and taking stuff in, it's almost like your mind starts doing all this work to repair and like come up with new ideas and daydream. So that I try to prioritize fitting into my life, even if I'm not doing exactly what I did during that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a ton of stuff for me, actually. I think a while back I did a 30-day vegan challenge where I went vegan for 30 days, and that's something that I've been sticking with since. I did a video on zero waste, which changed a lot of the ways I think about buying and using and producing waste and things like that. But I think there's stuff that I pull from every video that I find beneficial, whether it's just simply time mapping my work days or being conscious when I use my cell phone and how I'm using it, and setting timers of how long I can use an app for and things like that. So there's always little things I find that I'm taking away. But yeah, I think oftentimes I'm not taking the full extreme measures that I take in the challenge, but just grabbing little bits and pieces, which I think is what the hope for the challenge is for myself, and hopefully the audience can do the same.
Yeah, that's really cool. So like prep wise, when you guys, let's say you choose whatever challenge it is, are you guys just going in blind, or you're really sitting down and like planning out when I'm going to do it, things like that, or it's just like, hey, let's try this?
It's a combination. It is a combination of flying blind and also having like a certain amount of pre-research done, because usually what you're doing on the first day is you're trying to explain a little bit of the challenge And I've gotten burned on this a couple times where I learned the general rules. Happened in the last video where I was trying to explain like pawn exchanges and equivalent value, and in doing the analogy, I actually set myself up for like a 4-move checkmate, and it wasn't good. But that was day one. That was day one of me not knowing stuff, not really understanding how easily opening game strategies go. So I chose an analogy that was bad, and you try to avoid that, but you also at the same time want to have room to learn and grow as the process is going, and be like, oh, I never thought about this, which just tends to happen naturally, even when you do prepare, I think.
Yeah, I think we have a natural instinct to hop into things and just kind of willpower it the best way. Like hop into a fitness challenge and just work really hard, and you'll get big and strong and all these things. But I think with our videos, I think we're trying to lean more into a balance of our personal experience with the challenge, which is that element of, yeah, we can just hop into it and go for it. But also, I think we're trying to provide good information to an extent, and research and all these things that we think are going to bring value to our audience into the video. And so focusing in on that element, you really do have to do a bit of research, and you have to plan and do some reading and all these things to make sure it's balancing the two things that we want to do with our channel. But yeah, I think in the past we've done more of just hopping in and not necessarily looking at stuff as much as we probably should have, but it's something that we're trying to do more prep towards, just so we're getting like the best product in our videos and striking that balance that we want to be striking.
Yeah, and again, I think it's just like really cool, the entire concept, everything you're doing. And I think at least me being a fan, and I know other people who have been fans, just even if someone's not watching the channel, you guys have kind of taken on this role as almost like a guiding instructor or something to any of these challenges. Like how do you guys feel about that role, that you guys essentially have these people who are watching you and looking at you and possibly copying what you're doing?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. Mostly what I hope for with these videos is, if there was just a channel thesis, we'd love for people who watch a few of our videos to take away the idea that we have freedom to try things, and we're able to improve usually faster than we think we will when we stick with stuff. Mostly with each video, the hope is that if someone who genuinely comes to it that's interested in the topic, that wants to try it for themselves, that we at least point out some like obstacle points that we go through in the process, so that anyone else who's watching is kind of prepared and doesn't make the same mistakes we do. Because inevitably we screw up all the time during these challenges. We do stuff that would have been much smarter if we did it X instead of Y. And hopefully by the end of the video, we're aware of that and can be like, yeah, if I could do it again, I'd do this instead of that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest parts that we think is valuable to our channel is the fact that we're very average people. We're very normal guys, that we're not some highfalutin guru that has a lot of knowledge or past experience. We're just average people. So I think in and of itself, people seeing someone where it's like, oh, that guy is very normal like I am. And if he's doing it, maybe we can do it too. And so I think the inspiration that stems from that sort of scenario is something that we think is really valuable to what we're doing on Goal Guys. Is just making stuff seem attainable and making people think that, oh, I could do this too, and oh, I could implement this because this average Joe's doing it, so why can't I?
Yeah, I think that's really cool, because I know, Brendan, like you were just in Men's Fitness, right? Did you see that article?
They come out and they don't notify us, so usually you get alert from someone else. So like, hey, I just saw you on this on the website for Men's. I think it was Men's Health. Yeah,
which is really cool, because, and I think for me, like, you're definitely one of my fitness I don't want to say idols, but someone who I definitely look up to, because we're both regular guys and you do these incredible body transformations, which I want to get to in a second. But it's really cool to just see that like this this regular guy can be in the leading men's fitness magazine out there. How'd that make you feel when you saw that?
It's cool when it happens. It's fun, and you hope more people will find the videos in the channel. I'm at the stage now where I'm like, I really got to stop doing body transformational videos. I need to just stay in shape. And the thing is, I'm usually pretty good about in shape and being mindful of my exercise. I eat sweet things a lot. That's my problem. And every about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you're doing these amazing body transformation challenges. I'm wondering like why is there always the like how are you doing that? Are you're shredded and then you're regular and then shredded? How's that like? How's that taking a toll on you?
Well, when I'm losing weight and building muscle, I usually am pretty good at sustaining the muscle, but I eat really well, and throughout that process, I get cravings, and I just like, oh man, as soon as this challenge is done, like there's gonna be a feast. And if I was able to get through challenges and just do one feast, I'd be good. I'd have like one cheat day and then go back to it. The biggest challenge I have is just sustaining it. And moving across the country in the midst of a pandemic has not been good for these habits. I can guarantee you that. So
Yeah.
I'm not emerging from this with like, oh, time to do the post quarantine
Another 6-pack.
get shredded.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are in you're both in Toronto, Vancouver now, right?
Yeah.
And where are you guys originally from?
We grew up in New Brunswick, which is on the east coast of Canada, in a really small farm town there. But more recently, I've been living in Vancouver for the last 3 years, and Brennan's been in Toronto for
a little bit longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess I would love to know if you guys like how has your interaction with your fans go? Are you stopped on the street kind of things or anything like that?
We get recognized from time to time. It's always nice. People are always really friendly when it happens. We haven't had any bad interactions. We're probably a small enough channel that if you're able to recognize us, it's probably because you like what we do, and I don't think we really have a lot of hate watchers.
Okay.
If they haven't stopped us on the street, so that's
it's always very flattering. It's rare, but when people are like, "Hey, you're that guy from that YouTube channel," it's like, "Oh, whoa."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, what would you say your relationship with your fans is, at least on the internet wise?
That's a good question. I think it's something we're trying to figure out more and more as we go. I think it's interesting because I don't think either of us are super social media heavy people. Not like we're on Instagram posting all the time or super glued to our phones or whatever. So it's something we're trying to figure out how to do better. Because like my favorite part about putting out YouTube videos is that instant connection you get when you drop a video. You get 100 people that are just like commenting their input and giving you feedback and sharing their experience and all these things. And so that back and forth engagement is one of the best parts about doing this, and kind of seeing that instant impact you're making. But yeah, it's tricky to figure out how to best interact with our audience.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we're still trying to figure out in terms of like how to build a stronger relationship with the audience, because I think a large part of our views and our success comes off of creating like things that are clickable. So we probably have like a smaller contingent of like people who come back for every video. I'd say it's probably between like 20 and 30,000, and everything we get after that is people who have an interest in that topic, who have an interest in that thumbnail. Because the range of videos is so broad. So some of it's just figuring out like, well, how do we connect better with those people who come back for every video, and maybe create a better relationship where we can have more people who fall into that category. I think that's probably something we're trying to improve at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Connecting with them, we had this idea of potentially working alongside people on challenges and maybe giving people like a heads up as to what we're working on if they wanted to work on it with us, having that sort of like back and forth interaction where people can kind of come alongside us. Like we want to do stuff like that, but I think it's just figuring out. Right now we're just solely balancing like content because it's possible and not fall into some sort of anxious state of balancing 3 challenges at once. So
I mean, you guys are you're definitely killing it when it comes to like content you guys are putting out. I think it's so like cutting edge, and we spoke about it a little before, but like, yeah, like how do you find that challenge? Is it really just you two sitting in a room, or are you pulling inspiration from anywhere?
Well, thank you. That's really nice to hear. We generally there's ideas that I would say kind of like stick around in your head for a little while, and you're kind of like, oh, it'd be nice to do something that's related to this thing. I'm not sure what that would be, and then you try and like read a few articles, read a few books, and see if you can get something interesting. The alternate day fasting I did that recently did pretty well for us. That was originally going to be, I was kind of interested in day fasting, and maybe it was going to be like a shorter time frame. And then I started doing research, and I'd never heard of alternate day fasting before. And I was like, okay, well, that seems pretty intense. How safe is it? And looked at a few studies. And like, oh, this is actually, I would have never expected that test subjects would respond to this, when I was always like, no, it's really important to keep your meals consistent and do that. Why are people getting really good results by just completely skipping a day and then being allowed to eat whatever they want on day 2? So that kind of was like the seed of the idea to be like, oh, I really want to try this thing instead of the other ideas I was kind of floating around.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from reading books, articles, seeing what people want to see in the comment section. We get so many recommendations to try new things, whether it's in our Instagram DMs or in the YouTube comments. So it's taking all those into account as well. And then, yeah, just general curiosity about things, whether it popped up in a book that you're reading or a podcast you listen to or something on Instagram. I think just leaning into that sense of curiosity about things, it kind of naturally fosters video ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's awesome. So you guys are like, you really are interacting with your fans in the comments and DMs on Instagram. Like,
we read so many comments.
Yeah,
we love comments.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, has it been mostly good, mostly bad, neutral? Like, how do you guys feel about what's going on in the comment section, which is, I guess, the big bad comment section usually, not for you guys, but in general.
Yeah.
It's a paradox. The smaller the audience for a video, if we do a video that doesn't reach as many people, it means we're basically staying within the Goal Guys community. Then the comments are really lovely, and we get a lot of great feedback. And if videos do particularly well, it reaches a wider net of people, and then the comments become a lot more hit and miss usually, because it's just reaching other people that are like, who are these people? We don't like them, and we're gonna let them know. But generally, you do want your videos to reach a lot of people, and still stay relatively positive in the comments. But mostly, it's just, I think we try and find people who are coming back and commenting on a lot and giving us their feedback and be like, yes, we will interact with you guys and really try and foster a good relationship. And because if they're not satisfied with the stuff we're making, then there's really no reason why we're doing it.
And yeah, I think a lot of our comment sections tend to lean more positive. I think people are generally pretty pleased to see someone just trying something. And I think there is the baseline of our videos that, yeah, we're not experts and we're trying to learn as we go and figure this out. And so I think there is an element of grace that comes with that tone to the video. That being said, I do think there are, with the subject matter that we cover, there's a lot of people that want to chime in with their thoughts on certain things, whether positive or negative. But I think that discussion inherently is good. I think having that back and forth in the comment section, you always see people agreeing, disagreeing, debating, having those sort of interactions, which I think is good. And I think that's what you kind of want to have. Obviously, you want it to be civil and polite and all these things, which YouTube isn't always known for. But I mean, yeah, I think that the back and forth is good.
Yeah, I think it's really healthy, and it's great to hear that like you guys are actually taking into account what people are saying, because, and I think that is kind of the power of YouTube, and I'd love to kind of hear you guys' thoughts on this. It's just like, you know, growing up, you can watch a show on TV, or when we were growing up, you know, you don't really have any engagement. You could read like a tabloid magazine, but today, you know, celebrities are just so accessible, and you know, even people like you guys who are just doing amazing things on YouTube, you can just go in there and boom, and I could talk to my favorite YouTuber, or maybe not get a response, but see post something and he sees it, or I hope he sees it. Like that is, I mean, YouTube is something incredible, and you guys are making a living off of that. So like, yeah, I would love to hear kind of if you guys want to share, like kind of have you monetized, and like how you're kind of taking that angle through YouTube.
Monetizing, it's tricky because I do think we are both creative individuals. I think we both went to like arts programs in university, so I think that is reflected in our content, where I think we're always trying to make the best videos possible, share our stories in the best possible way, whether it's quality, whatever. And so a lot of our principles in monetizing is just simply to make the best content and trusting that quality will kind of rise above the surface and just trying to do the best that we can. Um, and I think it's something we're really working on right now is trying to make this an easier living for us by venturing into things like things like merchandise and Patreon and all these different ways to kind of like build our safety net a little bit more and make this a little bit more secure for us. But yeah, it's tricky because I think it's new territory for the both of us having a business in this field, and so it's interesting learning as you go and trying to make it work. But I think at the core of what we do, it's just we enjoy making videos. We enjoy the creative aspect of it. We enjoy challenging ourselves and trying to do that and show that in the best way is at the core, the base of what we're really trying to do with monetization.
Yeah, I think that's also cool. So you guys are really putting the content first, which again is super like refreshing to hear. I feel like a lot of people not necessarily are doing that. They're going to say, I'm going to make as much money as I can in this short time frame. And you guys are looking at it like, no, I care about the fans. That's awesome.
Well, the content for us is also it's just hard to make by virtue of like the distance that because we work collaboratively with each other or have been from opposite sides of the country for a long time. So the biggest goal with this move was to be like, well, maybe we can make that process a lot easier and then have more energy to spend in like, engaging with people who like the content, creating additional things that people who are watching our videos maybe like extra things that can be of value to people who are watching the channel. And it was really going to be like, okay, well, how can we collaboratively grow and shape the channel now that I'm in DC as well? And then pretty much the entire world shut down. So we're kind of, that is the thing we're trying to figure out. But now we're also juggling, well, how safe is it to work together once I get situated in my new place? And how does the channel become collaborative now that we are all social distancing?
Yeah. Have you guys seen like a huge spike in views and stuff like that during the lockdown or?
No. It is we are not the content people want right now. No one should be thinking about how to be productive or put their life together. Everyone is survival and distraction.
Yeah, I would disagree because I am working from home and I'm trying to stay as productive as possible, and it's a challenge. Definitely. Do you have any tips on how to do that?
The thing I've been working on, and we were talking about like if we do any videos that trying to relate to this or things like that. But the thing that I've been trying to do ever since I stopped doing film work full time was just how disciplined can you stick with a routine when you're the only one who's like supervising whether you do it or don't do it. And I've been slowly figuring out how to build the habits to just kind of like be like, yes, I'm going to start my day at this time every day and do X, Y, and Z before 10, and then fill in the gaps after that. But I've been finding routine is really is really key when you don't have it being imposed on you through a traditional work structure.
Routine and creating a normalcy as well. I think when you are isolated in your house, in quarantine, or whatever it may be your situation is, I think having those elements of, like you said, getting up at a certain time, doing certain things like that you would normally do in your regular work week when you're not confined to your house, I think keeping that sense of normalcy not only is good for your mental health, but also good for productivity and keeping you motivated and keeping you on track, because I think it's really easy in this sort of scenario to kind of fall into this transient, very unmotivated state, which I think is completely natural and okay. I just think it's recognizing that, okay, I need to be a little bit disciplined in creating some sort of schedule and some sort of routine that's going to keep me on track with the goals that I want to be achieving over this time.
And is like Corona, is that throwing you guys off your schedule, or you're going to be able to continue to kind of put out content?
The plan is to continue putting out content. I've had one challenge that really would have revolved being outside and like working with other people a lot. It was a reflexes challenge that I just gotten started on, and then we pretty much entered the lockdown phase. So probably gonna put that one on pause for a second, and we're trying to figure out what other things can be done that are based around home workouts and stuff like that. So I'm working on trying to learn one-arm push-ups right now because I can do all that training with just like, body weight and a floor.
Yeah. I was in the middle of a bulking video where I was in the gym every single day, basically. And so now my gym is closed, so it's remapping what this video it is, how do we go from here. So there's been a little bit of juggling and adjusting and tweaking due to the circumstances. There's also the element of trying to provide value for this time where a lot of people are in a similar experience at home, maybe feeling unmotivated in a new set of circumstances that is very communal, where you don't have that a lot.
Yeah.
And so catering to that and trying to provide value in a time that's very unique and very, very shared for a lot of people.
So that's actually interesting. So you guys had to like shelve some of the challenges, but so have some of challenges, like how much stuff kind of winds up on the cutting room floor, whether it be ideas or just challenges that didn't work out?
I don't think there's been a challenge that hasn't worked out. There's ones that we have just continually put off doing, but even when we do stuff, yeah, even when we do stuff and we fail, we'll try and still be like, well, we went through the process. We'll share the failure, and those videos usually don't do very well because you want that, like, people want to see you succeed in the end. So whenever you like do something for 30 days and it's like, oh, sorry, nope, zero, nothing. You just kind of have to take it and be like, this is part of the process.
Yeah, and it's important to show the wins and the losses evenly, And so, but yeah, very, very few things get cut on the whole. Typically, we try to, even if it doesn't go right or we don't achieve it, we usually show that because I think that's equally as important. But as far as content in the video goes, it depends on the project. Some projects you film a ton for, and then you have to cut it down and try to find the most efficient way of sharing your experience. And then other things you have enough, or you have to like maybe buff out with like an information segment or something that you are learning. So it varies video to video.
And are you guys, so I've noticed the thing is great in the videos. Are you guys doing that yourself? You have a production crew or someone else is filming a lot of the times? Sorry,
what was the first part of that question?
So for filming, I said you're filming, like your quality is great and the angles and everything you're doing in the actual video. So I'm wondering how, you guys are doing that if you're not together.
Right. Most of the stuff that we film, at least for my end, Cam has a few more resources in BC than I have. But usually if you're seeing me shooting at home, those are all situations I've set up and shot. And I generally just I'll try and hire or bring in a camera person to shoot any segment when I'm working with an expert or when I'm going to a location, because that's a limited time period where it's like, okay, we gotta have someone who's just on camera for this. Cam process is a little different because you have a few more resources than I do.
Yeah, when I moved here, I was working as a freelance videographer, and so a lot of my friends work in the same field as me and are very savvy with cameras and good at all those things. And so a lot of my friends are just good at shooting, so they come on and help me shoot if I need an extra hand, or Derek, a guy who helps us make our videos and sort of manages us in a lot of ways. He'll come in and help me shoot. He works in film as well. So we got a lot of resources, or I have a lot of resources here at least, that are always helping and doing things. But a lot of it is just setting your camera on a tripod, setting it to autofocus, and running around in frame and doing what you have to do. So
yeah, I think it's cool because I know a lot of people watch YouTube and we don't, as a viewer, you don't really understand what goes in to a video, because I've definitely tried to do some stuff, came out horrible. You guys are doing stuff and it looks so freaking simple. So it's like, and then you try it yourself and it's terrible. But before I let you guys go, like, if you I guess kind of see the channel growing in like a year from now, what is your hope for the channel, or where do you see it morphing into?
That is a great question that we are asking ourselves a lot right now.
I think that's awesome, though, that like you guys are asking yourselves it also.
Yeah, I think one thing we're trying to figure out right now is just what our balance is between fitness content and lifestyle content. How do we make videos that add value that necessarily don't revolve around a 30-day time frame, where we can maybe book an expert to talk to and build a video out of that, and really trying to figure out what people who watch our channel will connect with in the realm of those videos. I was able to get one interview at the end of last year with a productivity and mindfulness writer named Chris Bailey, and that video people seemed to like that and respond to the content. So we're trying to figure out how we can do more of that and still continue doing the typical Goal Guys stuff that we do, and hopefully make that better now that we're in the same place.
Yeah, it's going to be nice because over the next bit, we're able to live in the same place now and be in videos together, which I think will help the cohesion. I think for the longest time, people are like, what is the relationship between you guys? Are you siblings? Are you partners? Like, what are you? What is going on here? So I think having us both in the same place, I can help him film, he can help me film, we can be in videos together, will help people understand what Goal Guys is. So that's going to be nice going forward. I think it's, yeah, like you said, I think it's finding other ways that may take a little bit of the pressure off of having a bunch of 30, 60-day challenges on the go that still are going to bring value to our audience, that are still going to scratch that curiosity itch for the both of us. And then learning how to do that in a better way to like make us grow and hopefully financially like improve our situation and make it easier on the both of us. So just kind of building it out and making it better for both us and for the audience as well. So figuring out what that looks like is TBD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. And I am really looking forward to kind of seeing everything. I mean, again, love your content. Looking forward to kind of seeing where the channel grows, because I know it will. And stay safe. And again, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh,
and we'll speak soon.
so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. This has been
Okay. Take care, guys.
Cheers, man. Stay safe, stay
This
healthy.
is the Thought Leaders Podcast.